Hey guys, Tarke here, and in today's video I'm going to do my best to break down the Sentinel League mechanic. It's a very busy league, so I'll try and just give a brief rundown of how it all functions. I'll then be going through my thoughts on the league, some of the things I think might be nice, some of the things I think might be bad. And yeah, so as you are playing, you'll be killing enemies, and they will drop these little Sentinel things, little robots that you get in your inventory. You start off with just one equipment slot, you equip it. As you're playing around, they zap enemies. When they zap enemies, they will generally make the enemies more difficult, but give greater rewards. As you progress through the axe and into the map, you'll then be able to have up to 3 equipped at once. You'll also start to unlock like a passive skill tree you can use for them. And the basic premise is regularly collect fun little robots. To stop you from using the same robots forever, there are going to be charges associated with them. And then you start combining your robots, and it's like, okay, so this seems like quite a busy little league, and that's really my main issue with the league. So before I get into the full rundown, let me show you some examples of what the sort of things you could expect to see is. So here's some example little Sentinel. So this guy can only empower rare or unique enemies, and you can see it has a duration of 40 seconds. It can empower up to 5 rare or unique enemies. And we don't know the full details. Chris said in the Q&A with Ziggy that they kind of want to make sure that it's always giving you better rewards. They don't want to like overwhelm the player with too much information. So this will be something that we kind of have to test out ourselves. Here we have one which this one rolls with increased duration. So this one, for example, has 50 seconds. That has 40 seconds. This empowers 75 enemies. This empowers 30 enemies. So this is obviously a level 12 item and so forth. So you can see chance that when you empower enemies, they get currency rewards. They'll get little like currency icons above their heads. This is a rare one. I'll explain how you get rare ones later. So this one has a positive effect it gives the player. When it's activated, it gives the player Tailwind. It fires additional beams, it chains between multiple enemies at once, and it has a chance that empowered enemies have guaranteed unique rewards. Okay, so how do you get rare or even unique Sentinels? As far as I'm aware, you can only drop blue ones, and then once they're depleted, you can combine them to get a yellow or a unique. If this is starting to get a little bit complicated, don't worry, it is a little bit complicated. This is the passive tree style system I was talking about. So they're calling it a runic circuit board. Basically, just think of it like a passive skill tree, but with extra steps associated. And that's something that you'll be going through like that. Some people saying apparently res do occasionally drop. So this is the assembly window that I was talking about. So once you've depleted your Sentinel, once you've used all of its juice, it's not worthless. It can still be used. You can combine 2 together to get a brand new one. So here are some example screens of what that might look like. So you can here see 2 blue ones combining into a rare. Here we see 2 rares combining into a bigger rare. Here we see 2 rares combining into a unique. So it generally seems like that's going to be your rough progression path. Mostly be picking up blue ones from enemies, occasionally picking up rares, combining blues to get rares, combine rares to get uniques. Okay. Now, this might seem familiar to a league mechanic we've just had. Also, there's a chance that you'll get these augmented power cores. Power cores destroys 2 Sentinels to create a fully charged Sentinel with a combination of their properties. This will give a higher chance of new random modifiers. This one will give you a chance of upgrading the tier of modifiers, higher chance of special base type. In my mind, it's all a little bit like overly complex in the way it kind of goes. Unique Sentinels will have special effects. So this one, for example, can only empower rare enemies. This one empowers many enemies at once, and it petrifies them, so it kind of like locks them in place for 5 seconds. This one, apparently, there'll be something we see quite a lot of, is you'll get Sentinels that only affect specific map bosses. So if you had a bunch of these, then maybe you might be in a scenario where you get like 10 Sentinels that only affect June map bosses. So then I guess you're running a lot of June until you run out of those Sentinels. It seems like a kind of a neat system, and I think if it was just any one of these steps individually, I'd like it a lot more, but I think the combination of all of them is quite overwhelming. But that's not all, there's still this extra little step. So sometimes we'll get these rare items called recombinators, which much like combining Sentinels to get better Sentinels, you can combine 2 items of the same type, so 2 boots, to get a better pair of boots. So here is one that destroys 2 armors to create a new armor with a combination of their properties. Sometimes the result is modified unpredictably. Chris said that sometimes these could make mirror tier items in some case. This won't be the best way to get mirror tier items, but you might sometimes get very unpredictable, very powerful effects out of here. Here's some examples of some combined ones we've seen. So this has got Magic Utility Flask have increased effect. Gain Alchemist Genius when you use a flask. I imagine that's the special line there. This ring has the Ellie weakness, a curse on hit, and channeling skills minus mana cost, and maximum power charges. Very good ring. Here you have an example of a astral plate with synthesized mod. So it looks like we can also be moving synthesized or fractured mods over. Could be interesting. And this actually gives Mage Bane, which is a very powerful keynode. So I made like a list of the steps of this league mechanic, and here we go. So it's like a 7-step league. So the Sentinels you collect are 2x2, so that means they use 4 slots in the inventory. That's my first major issue with the league mechanic. We don't know how common these Sentinels will be. We don't know if we're getting maybe 1 per zone, multiple per zone, maybe 1 every couple of zones. But this could very easily fill up your inventory, and if it's a case of getting a lot of these at once, that could be a bit of a problem. We saw similar issues with inventory and storage in Arch Nemesis, but in Arch Nemesis you had their own like special UI. These go straight into your inventory. We will apparently have a Sentinel stash tab, if I heard Chris correctly, so that will help somewhat, but we will then be in a situation where we're then like having to collect loads of these. We want to be saving up good ones to combine into other ones. We're going to start having the similar situation of Arch of collecting for recipes. So like, oh, I've got this really good mod with this really good mod, so I want to combine them to get a better one. For example, with the unique Sentinel, which only works on specific maps, I could very much see a scenario where you start to stockpile and hoard lots of Sentinels for later use, either later use for combined or later use to combine with other ones. You can equip up to 3 of these at once. So you will want to be going through these, and I'm assuming wanting to make sure you always have 3 good ones equipped at one time. You have the Sentinel passive skill tree. If you wanted to go full micromanagement, you would want to be making sure you're speccing your Sentinel passive skill tree to getting the most of your unique Sentinels, or at the very least the most of your powerful rare Sentinels. I don't think this will be something that you'll need to change every time you equip new Sentinels, but if you wanted to go extreme with the micro, that could be an issue. I imagine many players will just set once and forget, maybe changing it every couple of weeks as a new dominant strategy becomes available through either Reddit or YouTube videos. You have to activate your Sentinels manually while mapping. They'll have individual keybinds, I've been told. That could be incorrect. I think this would be quite a lot of work if this was all a passive system, but the fact that you suddenly might have to have 3 extra keybinds, if you were to ask me right now, I wouldn't have access to 3 more keybinds. I don't know what I'd fit that in. If it's a situation I'm regularly having to press 3 extra keybinds while mapping, that will limit some of the build choices I want to go for. I won't be playing a multi-button build while also pressing like multiple of these at once. They've said they've introduced, they have introduced controller support. Suddenly, control support, but now 3 extra buttons. That doesn't seem particularly fun. There's the aspect of managing your Sentinel charges and your Sentinel timers. When you run out of charges, you then combine your NT Sentinels for more Sentinels. You then get this item letting you combine multiple items. There's just a lot of steps going on here. This seems very much like Sextant or Fragment style gameplay. One thing which does make this league mechanic micromanagement more attractive than Arch Nemesis micromanagement, however, is this micro is happening outside of combat. You'll be doing most of this stuff in Hideout rather than in Arch Nemesis, where you're doing most of the stuff in the map. Yes, you'll have to be activating your Sentinels yourself. That's a little bit of extra upkeep during the actual mapping gameplay process. I would nearly always rather have menu and micro bloat in Hideout than in gameplay, but I'd rather not have either if the option was available. I do very much see a scenario in Trade League where people be mass buying specific Sentinels. So we might have a situation where a lot of the most efficient players, the most efficient Trade League Zoomers, for example, might like hide everything from their filter except for 1 or 2 very specific Sentinel base types. And they're mostly just buying pre-rolled, pre-made Sentinels of other players. while other people just be like picking them up, instantly listing them and selling them to others. Um, I will be making a dedicated video talking about 3.18, but I will just say generally, if you are someone who doesn't really play for the end game, if you're someone who mostly just plays through the axe, so you'll be doing some early white or rare maps, you might be in a scenario where you're not getting all that much hype for this league. Most of the excitement is very much in the big end game systems, the big system changes, but considering this league mechanic seems quite busy and very much favors micromanagement in getting the most rewards, and the fact there are no new skill gems or balance changes, I could see this being a league which isn't very attractive to the more casual audiences. One thing I will say, though, which is coming in 3.18, which will impact everyone at all levels of play, is we've seen a big change in how rare monsters function, and magic monsters for that case. A lot of the arch nemesis modifiers have been rolled into the core game, so the overall like combat level should be probably more difficult, but also more engaging overall. So if you like having engaging minute-to-minute combat, then that should be a big appeal, even if you aren't that interested in super endgame systems. If you're someone who kind of likes to turn your brain off and just kind of like blast through things, then maybe that'll be a negative. But anyway, that's my overall thoughts on Sentinel League. Haven't played it, haven't tested it. Until I have, I can't have any real judgment. But I will say initially, I am worried that this does seem a very micro busy league. I'm Tarke. Have a good day. Bye-bye.